630.
Good evening, I'm Steve Hensley. We begin with some breaking news out of Carter County, where Kentucky State Police are responding to a barricade situation. Police reported that troopers tried to serve an indictment warrant today, but the man they were looking for refused to leave the home. KSB is currently on scene of the barricade situation around the 600 block of Kentucky Route 2 near Olive Hill. No injuries have been reported and further details have not been released. It's been 4 months since deadly tornadoes created a lot of destruction in western and south central Kentucky. People are getting back on their feet as rebuilding is well underway. One of the hard-hit areas was in Taylor County. Dozens of homes were destroyed and one woman was killed there. WYMT's Phil Pendleton spoke to people at a drug treatment facility that had to replace nearly everything inside.
The Sanders Road area hit very hard by the December tornadoes here in Taylor County. And I am told, as far as rebuilding and recovery, donations and volunteer groups have been huge in that process. 10,000 volunteer hours were logged helping people recover after the December storms. And emergency officials say tens of thousands of dollars poured in, including $400,000 from one bank alone.
Majority of the insulation and several things from the ceiling actually fell down.
The Lake Cumberland Recovery Center was one facility that lost most of its roof and nearly everything inside. Thanks to volunteers and lots of hard work, it's already serving clients again.
We had countless members from the community come out and help, and it just shows what a great community we have and how when a disaster like this happens, how many people are just ready to jump in and help. And
Cook says what was once a terrible loss has resulted in nearly a brand new facility that'll help them serve people in a much better way.
It's just one of those things, like something really good came out of something really bad. Like it's just been amazing to see just all the support we've had, all the prayers, just everything.
This is a very rural area. A lot of barns were destroyed, farm buildings heavily damaged. I'm told that the Amish and Mennonite communities were very instrumental in helping these farmers recover. In Taylor County, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
Phil, thank you. The Community Foundation of West Kentucky is helping to coordinate help for those that need long-term recovery assistance. We have more information on what they are doing on WYMT.com. Senator Mitch McConnell was in Shelby County today to talk about a variety of issues. The war in Ukraine was on the top of a lot of folks' minds. McConnell said right now, America needs to exert itself. He says we need to be honest that we want the people of Ukraine to win the war. He says Putin's plans have backfired on him.
There's absolutely no rational basis for this military war other than his desire for conquest. It's not working out well for him in a variety of different ways. He thought it would split NATO.
McConnell spent a chunk of the time complaining about the current administration and says we are in a muck because of them. Indiana State Police are working to identify a young boy found dead in the woods this weekend. On Saturday, the boy's body was found off a road in rural Washington County. Since then, they've been checking area schools, talking to residents in the area, and following up on local tips, but so far nothing. That's leading investigators to believe this child may not be from the area. They've been getting a lot of tips about a missing child from Virginia named Cody Bigsby, and say they are working with investigators there to follow up on that.
Obviously, this is a 5 to 8 year old young man. Somebody was taking care of him. He was in somebody's custody and care for his daily needs and for support. And we still haven't received any information about a child that's missing that hasn't been accounted for that would match his description. So we're asking for the public's help again to keep this going. Somebody out there either knows and isn't saying something or just hasn't had the opportunity to see this in the media yet.
If you have any information on this, you're asked to call the National Tip Line. That number is there on your screen, 1-888-437-6432.
Low clouds and chilly air continue to work through the mountains this afternoon. As afternoon turns to evening, we'll start to see fewer 40s and more 30s around the region. You already see that UVA-wise camera. Low clouds hang over the campus at this hour. 39 degrees at the moment. I-64 at Moorhead. Yeah, some clouds a little bit lighter, but still plenty of overcast around the region. We remain well below average. We should be 70 this time of year. We are between 15 and 25 to 30 degrees below normal. Yeah, April the 18th, and we're dealing with afternoon temperatures in the 30s, wides just dropping now to 37 as well. Pinpoint Doppler, the last of those showers continuing to push on through the highest elevations. Can't rule out some drizzle or some mist as things work on through. The last of our front, though, continues to push on out. And the back edge of the cloud cover continues to work through the western part of Kentucky. Either way, keep that WYMT weather app handy as we head through the nighttime hours, because not only will you see much nicer conditions return, you'll see much colder conditions return as well, with temperatures in many spots getting down into the 30s overnight. I don't have the very latest, though, on when things really look to warm up and whether we could be dealing with any showers with that warm up coming up in just a few minutes. Steve?
Evan, thank you. Back from combat and dealing with health problems is a common issue for our nation's veterans. Some vets who live in rural areas say where they live is making it more difficult to access and receive VA health care. As WYMT Washington News Bureau's Nicole Newman reports, a bipartisan group of lawmakers is advocating for legislation to change this.
The challenges of accessing and receiving health care for veterans may be more difficult depending on their zip code. Vietnam War veteran Eric Cantu lives in Lenoir County, North Carolina. The nearest VA clinic is about 40 minutes away.
It's quite difficult to navigate the VA system as it's set up, and we have delays from anywhere from 60 to 90 days or more before we can get appointments.
The 76-year-old says he's being treated for multiple health issues, including PTSD and COPD.
And I'm on oxygen 24/7.
According to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, about 4.7 million veterans return from active service to live in rural areas. Russ Peel is the director of workforce recruitment for Veterans Health and Administration for the VA. Peel says the department engages in an overall push to employ more doctors to treat veterans, but there isn't a specific program to recruit solely for rural areas.
We've leveraged all the tools and resources we have on our end, aggressive recruitment efforts to attract and get those providers in rural locations.
Wisconsin Congressman Glenn Grothman is among a group of lawmakers advocating for the bipartisan Rural Veterans Act to address what the group calls a shortage of Veterans Administration's medical professionals in rural areas.
Well, I think we could always use more. You know, we've got a VA center in Cleveland, Wisconsin, along Lake Michigan, and I'm sure they could benefit from this program.
In a statement, Hawaii Congressman Ed Case says specialty provider shortages in such rural areas are very acutely felt and compound the already higher rates of poverty. If passed, the bipartisan legislation would establish an Office of Rural Recruitment and the Department of Veterans Affairs. The office's purpose would provide a targeted nationwide plan to recruit VA doctors to rural areas and be required to submit annual reports on the status of VA health care. In Washington, I'm Nicole Newman.
Lawmakers advocating for the Rural Veterans Act hope the Veterans Affairs Committee picks up the bill. Philadelphia became the first major U.S. city to reinstate a mask mandate in all indoor public spaces amid the latest surge in new cases of the Omicron subvariant BA2. But several residents and small businesses have filed a lawsuit against the requirement. Federal health officials and medical experts say it's up to individual cities to decide whether to reinstate COVID restrictions, while stressing that Americans, especially the most vulnerable, continue to take precautions. The Minnesota Raptor Center has issued a warning to bird watchers everywhere to take down bird feeders and bird baths. This is to help protect birds of all kinds against the avian flu. It is unclear how avian influenza affects songbirds and some of the birds you might be finding in your backyard, but for now the Raptor Center is saying to take down places where birds might meet up, like bird feeders and bird baths.
That's kind of disappointing because we're just coming into when all the yellow finches come, and yeah, there's a lot of birds that are going to be coming right now.
The virus is not exclusive to poultry and turkey. The Raptor Center has seen its effects on their bald eagles and their great horned owls. Adding to inflation woes in the United States, natural gas prices have risen to their highest levels since 2008. Natural gas futures spiked 9% in recent trading and 16% last week. The gains leave natural gas up by a staggering 113% since the end of last year. That spike comes just in time for a rare April snowstorm that's about to hit the Northeast. The cold weather will force millions of families to crank up the heat in the coming days and in turn drive up the demand for natural gas. The jury in the case against a former Ohio doctor accused of causing deaths by overprescribing pain medication says they cannot reach a verdict. William Hustle is accused of killing 14 of his terminally ill patients. His defense says he provided care to lessen suffering. The jury told the judge they cannot reach a unanimous verdict and are at an impasse. The judge has instructed them to continue deliberating. Hustle was indicted back in June of 2019 and faces 14 counts of first-degree murder. He was initially indicted on 25 counts of murder, but in January, 11 of the counts against him were dismissed. Coming up on Mountain News at 5:30, saving up for that next big trip. Airfare may be on the rise, but there are ways to cut costs on vacations. How you can stretch your travel dollar this spring.
And we've got abundant sunshine back in the forecast as soon as tomorrow. The full details are on the way next.
WYMT News app offers alerts on breaking stories as they happen, customized to the categories you